Dear finance professionals and students, welcome to podcast of FCA Deepak Rao, a practicing chartered accountant. Weekly digest for week 1 of March 2025. The NFRA plans to focus on auditing firms with significant listed company audits using data analytics to detect potential issues. Chairman Ajay Bhushan Prasad Pandey emphasized the need for auditors' independence and professionalism. Upcoming inspections of firms like Deloitte and EY will assess improvements in processes. Earlier reports highlighted deficiencies in related party transactions and documentation. Onyx Renewable, a Gujarat-based renewable energy and solar module manufacturing company, is set to raise Rs 1,000 crore through an initial public offering by July, targeting a valuation of Rs 10,000 crore. The company, which began as a transmission and distribution contractor in 2007, has expanded into solar module manufacturing and independent power production. Excel Technologies Limited, a vertical software as a service company focused on the learning and assessment market, has filed papers with capital markets regulator to raise Rs 700 crore through an IPO. The proposed IPO of the Karnataka-based company is a combination of a fresh issue of shares valued at Rs 210 crore and an offer for sale of shares worth Rs 490 crore by the promoters. The Income Tax Bill 2025 proposes a major shift in tax reassessment rules, allowing authorities to issue notices under the General Anti-Avoidance Rules or GAR, even for tax years that have crossed the prescribed time limits. If approved, this change will empower tax officers to revisit transactions executed several years ago if deemed to have been structured primarily for tax avoidance. As per the existing rules, tax authorities can issue reassessment notices if unreported income exceeds Rs 50 lakh. However, these notices must be issued within 5 years and 3 months from the end of the relevant assessment year. This statutory limit has prevented authorities from investigating older transactions that may involve tax avoidance. Paytm has been issued a show cause notice by the Enforcement Directorate for alleged violations of the Foreign Exchange Management Act of FEMA. The notice pertains to irregularities in the acquisition of two subsidiaries, Little Internet Private Limited and Nearby India Private Limited, between 2015 and 2019. In its regulatory filing, Paytm reassured that the issue has no impact on its operations. All services on the Paytm app remain fully functional and secure with no disruption for users or merchants. Chris Capital, one of the largest and most established India-focused investment firms with over $6 billion in assets under management, is exploring investments in areas such as enterprise tech, financial services, pharma, healthcare, consumer, manufacturing, and new economy sectors. Chris Capital said that the environment for companies going public is facing some headwinds, but better businesses will continue to go public despite cycles. Chris Capital has 5 to 6 portfolio companies planning IPOs in the next 18 months. Private equity investor Blackstone has withdrawn from acquiring a minority stake in India's Haldiram's snack business due to valuation disagreements. Blackstone sought a 15% stake with an $8 billion valuation, while Haldiram's desired $10 billion valuation. Rival bidder Temasek remains interested. Additionally, there was a conflict regarding the timeline for Haldiram's potential IPO. E-commerce giant Amazon is building its own artificial intelligence model that could compete with more established offerings from firms like OpenAI and Anthropic. Amazon's upcoming Nova AI model aims to enhance reasoning capabilities. Nova is a reasoning AI model set to launch in June this year. In December last year, Amazon CEO Andy Jassy announced the new Nova models at a conference in Las Vegas. The government has decided that the date for closure of residual transactions for March 2025 be fixed as April 10, 2025. The nodal focal point branches must ensure that the accounts for all transactions, which is revenues, tax collections and payments, are effected at the receiving branches up to March 31st, 2025 in the accounts for the current fiscal year itself and are not mixed up with the transactions of April 2025. SEBI has mandated all listed companies to follow industry standards to effectively implement the requirement to disclose key performance indicators in the draft offer document and offer document as per SEBI ICDR Regulations 2018. Issuer companies and merchant banks must follow industry standards to ensure compliance with KPI disclosure requirement in draft offer documents. The circular shall apply to all draft offer documents filed with SEBI or stock exchanges on or after 1st April 2025. Luxembourg-based private equity company CVC Capital Partners announced the final close of its Strategic Opportunities 3 fund at Euro 4.61 billion or $4.85 billion. The fund has maintained the size of its predecessor while expanding its investor base, according to a company press statement, with the latest rise bringing total commitments under the firm's long-term strategy to over 13 billion euros across 3 vintages. Amazon's cloud services provider, Amazon Web Services, will invest about $8.2 billion in India's western state of Maharashtra over the next few years. India has been stepping up its efforts to pilot local cloud data storage. The country's cloud services market, estimated at $8.3 billion in 2023, is expected to grow to $24.2 billion by 2028. The e-commerce giant runs 2 data centers in the Indian subcontinent. One in Mumbai, launched in 2016, and another in Hyderabad, which started in 2022. Last year, Amazon said it would invest an additional $2 billion in Asia's third largest economy to ramp up e-commerce business. In a move to streamline tax payments, the Income Tax Department has expanded the list of banks available for tax payments through the ePay tax service on the e-filing portal. Currently, 30 banks have been enabled, including both newly onboarded and migrated banks. With this initiative, taxpayers now have more options to pay their income tax, advance tax, and other tax liabilities efficiently. In a significant relief to goods and services taxpayers, the government is likely to amend the central GST rules, allowing recipients of goods and services up to 2 months to accept or reject a credit note and adjust the input tax credit accordingly. At present, taxpayers using the Invoice Management System or IMS must accept or reject credit notes outright, limiting flexibility. The proposed amendment aims to ease compliance and reduce financial strain on businesses. This move will affect 15 million GST taxpayers, including both large and small businesses, as credit notes are a key component of IMS. However, the amendment comes with a catch. If a recipient accepts the credit note in the next tax period instead of the same month, they must pay interest for the 1 month delay. While this move enhances flexibility, businesses must adjust their cash flow management and input tax credit planning to avoid additional financial burdens. As the GST framework continues evolving, taxpayers should stay updated on regulatory changes and prepare for a potential mandatory IMS rollout in the near future. Anticipated tight liquidity conditions by the financial year end, amid tax outflows and banks rushing to meet targets, the Reserve Bank of India announced fresh measures that would infuse close to Rs 1.9 trillion of liquidity into the banking system. The central bank announced open market auctions to purchase government securities worth Rs 1 trillion in two tranches of Rs 50,000 crore each on March 12th and March 18th. Additionally, a USD INR buy-sell swap auction for $10 billion with a tenure of 36 months is scheduled for March 24th. The United States wants India to eliminate tariffs on car imports under a proposed trade deal between the two nations. But New Delhi is reluctant to immediately bring down such duties to zero, even as it considers further cuts. India's high auto tariffs will feature in formal talks for a bilateral trade deal that are yet to begin, said one of the three sources, all of whom were briefed on the matter, paving the way for American electric vehicle maker Tesla, which is gearing up for an India launch. Blackstone Inc. is close to acquiring South City Mall in Kolkata for up to $400 million. This marks its entry into Kolkata's retail market, with the mall being the largest in eastern India. The move aligns with Blackstone's strategy to leverage India's consumer spending, adding to its existing investments in offices, hotels, and warehouses. India's central bank plans to ask lenders to follow stricter underwriting processes for gold loans and monitor the end use of funds as it tries to cool growth in the fast-growing segment. The Reserve Bank of India wants banks and non-banks to also bolster background checks on borrowers and ascertain the ownership of the gold that is being mortgaged. It wants to make sure that any unethical business practices are curbed and financial stability is protected. Apollo Health and Lifestyle Limited has obtained a significant controlling stake in Care Diagnostics through an all-cash deal. This strategic partnership will position Care Diagnostics to expand its healthcare testing services more widely across Uttar Pradesh, which plans to achieve full acquisition eventually. This transaction involves the sale of a majority stake, structured with a path to a full 100% acquisition. The collaboration positions Care Diagnostics to emerge as a dominant player in Uttar Pradesh's diagnostic and pathology sector, extending healthcare testing services to more communities across the region. SEBI has extended the deadline for AIFs to report differential rights issuance from February 28, 2025 to March 31, 2025. This follows industry representations seeking additional time for compliance. The reporting requirement applies to AIFs whose PPMs were filed on or after March 1, 2020 and have issued differential rights outside the standard setting forum's implementation standards. This circular shall come into force with immediate effect. The ICAI has issued guidelines on firm name usage and tender submissions to ensure compliance with CWA Regulations 1959. Members must use only council-approved firm names with minimal deviations allowed. Misleading names and major alterations are prohibited. Tender submissions must accurately list only full-time professionals, excluding non-full-time certificate of practice holders. Leadership of branch offices is restricted to partners, sole proprietors, or full-time employees, barring non-partner COP holders from managing branches. Violations will lead to disciplinary action and members are urged to adhere strictly to these guidelines. The ICMAI has released the exposure draft of the Code of Ethics 2025, enhancing ethical standards for cost and management accountants with a focus on integrity, independence, AI ethics, corporate governance, and compliance. It introduces a framework for addressing ethical threats, strengthens independent standards for audits, and provides guidelines on professional conduct, conflicts of interest, and regulatory compliance. Stakeholders are encouraged to review and submit feedback by March 17, 2025. In a bid to defend margins and improve utilization rates, the top IT services companies including Tata Consultancy Services, Wipro, HCL, Accenture and Infosys have reduced the bench sizes in a year and a half. With the IT companies' demand for niche skills related to AI, machine learning and cloud computing, employees with 9 to 14 years of experience with legacy skills are under the risk of bench layoffs. The Taiwanese giant, the first electronics manufacturer to be given such a large incentive by Karnataka, plans to assemble 20 million smartphones annually on a 300-acre plot spread across villages in Devanhalli Taluk near Bengaluru. This Taiwanese giant is Foxconn. Nippon Life Insurance Company's India unit may buy a minority stake in IndusInd Bank Limited to use the bank's network for selling its insurance products. They could initially buy a 4.9% stake and potentially increase it to 9.9%. The market value of IndusInd Bank is about 730 billion rupees. The Institute of Cost Accountants of India, or ICMAI, through its Cost Accounting Standards Board, or CASB, has released an exposure draft of the Technical Guide on Cost Management in Healthcare Services. Approved on January 29, 2025, the draft aims to provide guidelines for improving cost management in healthcare, enhancing service quality and affordability. It covers key areas such as industry trends, competitive strategies, costing approaches, revenue and expenditure streams, cost allocation, and regulatory frameworks. SEBI on Friday proposed to cut the minimum application size for public issuance of zero coupon, zero principal instruments issued by non-profit organizations on Social Stock Exchange or SSE to either Rs 5,000 or Rs 1,000 from the existing Rs 10,000. The move, if implemented, would boost the retail participation in ZCZP issuances by NPOs. Zero coupon, zero principal or ZCZP are instruments for donating money to non-profit organizations or NPOs listed on the SSE or the Social Stock Exchange. Markets regulator SEBI on Friday extended the deadline till March end to submit public comments on the proposed guidelines on the treatment of unclaimed funds and securities lying with brokers. The regulator on February 11th floated the consultation paper regarding the proposal and sought public comments on the same by March 4th, 2025. Now, it has been decided to extend the timeline to submit public comments on the consultation paper till March 31st, 2025, the Securities and Exchange Board of India. US President Donald Trump is considering imposing banking sanctions and tariffs on Russia to push for a ceasefire and peace agreement in Ukraine. This comes after intensified Russian attacks on Ukraine and the recent halt of US military aid to Ukraine. Trump urged both nations to negotiate before the situation worsens further. Domestic companies, including startups and manufacturing firms, have significantly increased hiring during final placements at several IIMs, surpassing foreign multinationals. Indian firms, including startups, manufacturing, and industrial companies, boutique firms, and homegrown fintech and BFSI companies, have hired about 40% more than foreign multinationals. The hiring surge is attributed to rapid economic growth, increased demand in various sectors, and government initiatives, leading to a substantial rise in job offers and competitive salary packages. The USD INR buy-sell swaps conducted by the Reserve Bank of India to inject durable liquidity into the banking system have led to a decline in forward premia on USD INR contracts, reducing hedging costs for Indian corporates seeking to borrow from overseas market. RBI's buy-sell swap strategy is incentivizing corporates to raise funds abroad, which will bring incremental capital inflows and help bolster India's foreign exchange reserves. These reserves have been gradually declining as the RBI has been intervening in the forex market to curb rupee volatility. The Income Tax Department has issued an urgent warning to taxpayers, cautioning them against fraudulent calls and messages related to income tax refunds. Scammers are impersonating tax authorities to deceive individuals into revealing their bank details and personal information, leading to financial losses. E-commerce major Amazon is revamping its refurbished devices business, called Renewed, and discontinuing the sale of products that are externally reconditioned. Now it will only sell the products which have been returned on its platform and refurbished by its own certified professionals. The company has sent out mails to sellers on Renewed, saying that the decision has been taken due to high returns and rejections. Credit growth continues to surpass deposit growth, albeit both have slowed, with bank deposits at Rs 222 lakh crore and credit at Rs 179.9 lakh crore as of February 21st. Slower deposit growth and tightened lending norms have influenced this trend. Retail loans and NBFCs lending have declined, prompting credit rating firms to revise credit growth estimates downward. India's Knowledge Reality Trust has sought approval for an initial public offering of Rs 6,200 crore or $711 million in what could be the nation's largest real estate investment trust listing, or REIT. The REIT, backed by Blackstone Inc. and Satwa Developers, has offices in key Indian cities including Bengaluru, Mumbai, Hyderabad and Chennai. The proceeds from the sale would be used mostly for repayment of debt. This podcast is sponsored by Sound of CA. We share because we care. Vande Mataram, Jai Hind.